Ever wondered how APIs are made? Or ever wondered how a backend server is structured? Well, you came to the right place. Alright, so let's try making a backend. So first we have here is an empty folder. Didn't mind what login auth is, but we're gonna make a different folder for that. Alright, as you can see here, we have a folder called API Prac, and let's go inside it. Alright, inside API Prac, we're going to be making two folders. One is the front end, and one will be the back end. Next, we go ahead and click this file path search bar, and then we type in cmd so we can get redirected to the command prompt. Alright, once in the command prompt, type in code space dot so that you can get redirected inside VS Code. I use VS Code, by the way. Okay, next step is to open the integrated terminal that VS Code offers. Press control backticks to open it. With that, you should have your terminal showing down at the very bottom. Alright, next up we will cd to our backend folder. Cd means change directory. So we will now enter our backend server. Alright, next up we're going to have to initialize our package.json with npm init-y. Type that inside your terminal, inside the backend folder. Okay, great, we now have a package.json. The package.json is what will hold our metadata along with some scripts and our dependencies. Next step is we are going to make our server.js file where all of our backend logic will be held inside it. Alright, now that we are inside server.js, let us start with importing every important imports that we are going to use throughout this API making. For this tutorial, we will be using Express.js, or the fast, unopinionated minimalist web framework for Node.js, the best back-end framework for JavaScript. Alright, I don't know why I put this here, but this is pretty much a middleware than an import. So this is app equals to express, meaning I can now just use app then express because I stored express in the variable. Alright, I don't know why I named this import section, but here we have cons mongoose equal require mongoose. Mongoose is a framework for MongoDB. MongoDB is a database which we will use to store data later on. Next we have is bcrypt.js, which we will use to hash our password. Alright, next we have is CORS, or the Cross Origins Resource Sharing. We are going to need this because usually there will be an error requiring CORS origin policy. Next we have the JWT, or the JSON Web Token, which will tokenize or make a hash token for our credentials. Next we have is the cookie parser, which we will use to make a secret key later on. Alright, now we will do a mass installation for our dependencies, which is our imports, which is really not an import, more like middlewares. So everything you see in my terminal, type them down and then press enter to install them. Alright, for this step we're going to set up the middlewares, even though we've been setting up middleware since the beginning. But yeah, I don't know why I'm so bad at this, but let's just go on. Ciao ciao. So yeah, let's set up the middlewares. Alright, for this middleware, we have mongoose.connect, and it shows my credentials for my MongoDB database. I'm gonna blur it right here because I might use this in the future, so I suggest you go make your own. Go to mongo.atlas.com. Alright, next one is CORS. So right here I have localhost 5173. And that is where my front end is hosted locally, which I don't have it right now, but for example, we have that. And we can now bypass the CORS error. For those who have been wondering what is a course error, well, here, this is a course error, and I am 100% saving you time debugging this. Alright, next we have here is express.json. What is express.json? Is a function, a built-in middleware function in Express. It parses incoming requests with JSON payloads and is based on body parser. Next in line, we have cookie parser. So for cookie parser, with this middleware, we can now use our secret method, which will be just a hash string. This is what our secret would look like. Alright, so we can now finally work with the API itself. Okay, for some reason my mic is starting to go low again, so I may have to not implement noise reduction. Alright, for this one, make a new folder, then call it model.js. Then inside that folder, make a file called user.js. Alright, so we have here is our user.js, and it's quite empty right now because we are going to fill it. First, let's grab our requires. Our first require is a mongoose require so that we can use mongoose inside. Next, we are going to grab schema and model from mongoose. Next, let's make a function which is user schema. Next, we will pass in two parameters, which is going to be username string and password string. Then we will turn it into a constant variable. Then let's make user model an exportable module. Okay, now that we are done setting up the module, let us now make an API for our register page. First, we need to write a function that will lead us to the /register page. It is asynchronous. It has two parameters, which is request and response. Now we're going to need const username password is equal to rec.body. Now we will do a try catch error just to find out if there is an error or something. Alright, now as you can see here, we made const user.doc equals await user.create, and inside of that function we have username and password bcrypt.hashsync, and inside we have two parameters, which is password and salt. I suggest go read the documentation for bcrypt in order to be more clear, because I legit suck at this. Okay, if there is an error, we want to return a 400 status.json error. Alright, we're going to use a framework that keeps on hot reloading our API, and it's called nodemon. Let's go install it with npm install nodemon. Then press enter. Okay, a big error occurred when I did it. Well, the fix was I reinstalled the package.json. So I deleted it entirely, and then I did another npm init-y and it fixed it. Then also, just rename node server.json to nodemon server.json, and it should be fine now. You will be able to run it now. Also, I hope I did not forget to add port, but yeah, do not forget to add port as always. Alright, now let's head to the login function. Just like in register, we will use a post method, which is app.use /login. It will be asynchronous, and it will also call request and response. Then we will need to call const username password again from rec.body. Then we will make a constant variable called user.doc, which is equal to await user.find1 username. Alright, next we need a constant variable called password. You can name that whatever you want, but for me I name it password, equals to bcrypt.compareSync password user.doc.password. Now let's make an if statement, if password. Then we will be adding jwt.sign username id user.doc dot underscore id secret and an empty curly brace, and then token, which will arrow function. Now if there's an error, we just want to throw that error. Next, we will put in rest.cookie token.json. Then we will pass in id user.doc dot underscore id and username. Then we want to throw in an else statement. Inside else, we just want to rest.status 400.json wrong credentials. Alright, now we just want to make profile API. We are actually almost done now. Alright, for profile, we want it to be a .get slash profile. It isn't going to be asynchronous. For this one, we need const token is equal to request.cookies. Then we are going to put in jwt.verify token secret and an empty curly brace, and then error info. Next, if there is an error, we just want to throw in that error. Then rest.json the info. And for the last part, the logout, we want it to be another post, so it's going to be app.use/logout, and then it's not going to be asynchronous. And we also have rec.rest again. And then we just want to pass in rest.cookie token and an empty string.json. Okay. Congrats on making it this far on this very scuffed tutorial. Well, now you know how APIs look like and how they are built. Next time, we are going to connect it to the front end. See you next time.